oh my Lord, he's wearing a Wednesday shirt and he's recording on a Wednesday. This is mighty irregular. I do not know what to do about this. Well, let's not do anything about this. Today on Rollin' Rambles, we're going to talk about people being lied to. People being tired of being lied to. Now, several years ago, during the lovely disease that everyone loves, I tried to post a little video. And the video got banned off of YouTube, citing their medical misinformation policy. Because back then, it didn't really matter that much if you were correct or not. It didn't matter if even the things that you were reporting on were things that the media and the authorities, the WHO and the CDC and Anthony Fauci and all the boss people that were the authoritative sources you're not allowed to question. Well, even when they said it, and then I said, yeah, you lied, and you admitted you lied, and people don't like being lied to. Even just saying they said this before. That was enough to get your videos banned off of YouTube and other major platforms for medical misinformation. Where by medical misinformation, I mean calling people out for lying by using the statements that they made where they admit to lying. The 2024 election in the United States of Donald Trump as president is the people are tired of being lied to election. I cannot think of a time in American history that people were lied to more than 2024. I mean, granted, people were lied to a lot for a long time. People are still lied to today. But the truth is, people were lied to more than ever. And that lying was enabled by social media platforms, by major news outlets, by the traffic that's coming in this direction that I'm trying not to get clobbered by. It was enabled by these people, these major platforms, these powerful people. They allowed and even encouraged the lying to continue. It's 2024, and the last 12 years are probably going to go down in history as the most infamous time frame of all of the modern era. Way worse than the 2008 recession, way worse than the 90s, way worse than all of the stuff that came before it, potentially even back to the civil rights era, potentially even back to the Great Depression. The last 12 years, we have seen the most vicious, aggressive, evil gaslighting of the American people that we may ever see throughout the entirety of history. We are told repeatedly, don't believe your lying eyes. Don't believe that the sky is blue, even though you can see the sky is blue directly in front of you all day, every day. We were lied to, and we know we were lied to, and it's been proven that we were lied to about so many things that it's staggering to me that people aren't angrier than they are. And I think that the 2024 election is a reflection of the lying finally catching up to the establishment and them getting the ever-living crap smacked down and out of them as a result. Because people don't like being lied to, and people could tell they were being lied to, and people could tell because they did such a poor job. They lied so hard about so much, and they did such a bad job of covering up the lies that people could just see right through it. And I honestly think that at some point, all the people in the establishment just kind of gave up. Like they just let go. Because what are you supposed to do? When the lies are so big and so poor and it's just blatant and so many people are poking so many holes, your gaslighting stops working and you just sort of lose faith. Like if you work really hard to BS a bunch of people and the people just keep seeing through it, at some point you're just like, oh God, I know I'm an FBI agent and my job is to make these people think this so that we can achieve this ulterior motive or alternate goal or whatever, so we can fulfill a hidden agenda. But good God, it just isn't working. Nothing we throw at this wall is sticking. Every single time that we post to 4chan telling people that Kamala is brat, they just keep on mocking us. Like we tap their cell phones and they just keep on laughing at us. That's a joke, by the way. I'm not saying the FBI is tapping everyone's cell phones, although the PRISM program did exist, NSA's PRISM, which is not the FBI, but I digress. So the bottom line there is that I think even the establishment realized that the jig was up. I think that's why when it was time, when they could not hide the fact that Joe Biden was just too addled and old and unsuited to run the country for 4 more years, which he didn't really run the country the last 4 years. His handlers and people around him did. But when it was just too much, there was no way that they were going to get Joe Biden in just because he was too old. And the only reason, and you run out at some point of fuel based on, oh, well, at least he's not Donald Trump. Well, oh yeah, at least he's not Donald Trump, but do you want someone managing the nuclear codes who's on the verge of not being able to remember what he was doing, who has difficulty functioning, just has some obvious cognitive decline that cannot possibly be covered up? At some point, even the establishment, even the DNC, any leftist you might randomly pick, had to admit, yeah, it doesn't look good for Biden. Even if they're rabid, like, oh yeah, I'm riding with Biden all the way in 2024, buddy. At some point, you just have to realize that that's not really possible. He's just not going to make it. It's not going to work out. It's time to break up. And then you see the people who run around screaming, oh, this is a serious threat or danger or whatever to our democracy, whereby our democracy, what they really meant is not everyone's democracy, but what they thought the United States should be. Run around screeching about threats to democracy, then they do the most undemocratic thing ever by just punting Kamala Harris into the forefront. And you almost have to feel a little bad for Kamala Harris because it's not, first of all, she got absolutely curb stomped in 2020. She was an absolute failure of a candidate. Tulsi Gabbard took her by the neck and shoved her head underwater until the bubbles stopped. And yet somehow DEI hired into the VP position, she becomes the most obvious pick because she checks all the DEI boxes. She's got all the leftist policies, and she's already the vice president. She'll be the first woman president, the first quote-unquote black president, the first Indian president, all at the same time. But the thing is, none of that actually matters. If you really think about it, does it matter if the person running the country is a woman or black or Indian or any of that kind of stuff? No, what matters is what they will do. What they look like doesn't really change any of that. Now, granted, being a woman can change your behavior because there are inherent female tendencies, but even then, I'll pick a highly competent and capable woman over an incompetent man any day. And that's just all there is to it. We don't care what they look like. No one does. So the threat to our democracy screeching harpies do the most undemocratic thing by kicking a person straight to the nomination without any sort of a process. There's not a primary, there's not a vote, there's no process whatsoever other than, well, we'll just make her the nominee instead. You can only be a Democrat, be a leftist, look at the behavior of the people that you vote for because you hate Donald Trump, who are screaming, everything is threatening our democracy. So this is a crucial moment. Our democratic way of life is in serious danger of never existing again if Donald Trump gets elected. And then they don't hold any sort of a primary for Biden or for Kamala. They just punt these people straight to the front, and that's it. You don't get a say. Well, what's democratic about you not having a say in who it is that you nominate for president? What's democratic about the decision being made for you by authoritarian people with power? I mean, it's really the most undemocratic thing that I can think of. The Democrats have been at this for a really long time. And they did it to Bernie. They kicked Bernie out. A lot of people who would have voted Democrat voted for Trump because Bernie was kicked out so unceremoniously. Just like, what's the point of having a primary where you get to choose who represents you in the party if they're going to just take your choice, if they're going to take the people that you're voting for and rig it so that person, the person you want, just can't be. Just they just go, no, well, you didn't vote the way we wanted, so we're just going to change the rules at the last minute with no input from you. How very democratic, how very threatening to our democracy, if you want to call it that. It doesn't look good. It doesn't look good to claim to be the protector and do the exact opposite of the thing that you supposedly stand up for and are like the highest, like you're the friggin' white knight in shining armor to defend. It just doesn't make any sense. But we were lied to about that, about that they lied about democracy and protecting democracy. And there's only so many times you can say threat to our democracy and be completely hypocritical before normal people start going, something is really not right here. They lied about illegal immigration being an issue. In fact, they said the opposite. They said, diversity is our strength. Remember? Do you remember that diversity is our strength? Because if you don't know that, how very un-American of you to think that diversity is not our strength. Well, the problem is that diversity doesn't really mean that much. It doesn't really matter that much, because what they mean when they say diversity is our strength in that context, it's not about the diversity. It's about importing voters in the form of illegal aliens that you somehow manage to get on the voter rolls. You try to fast track them into citizenship. You try to create legal workarounds to the requirement to be an American citizen or naturalized person to be able to vote. It's literally an attempt to overthrow our democracy by bringing a bunch of people not from here in the hopes that they'll pay you back for letting them in by voting for you in future elections. That's probably the least democratic thing I can think of. But we were lied to about January 6th. We found out that the whole thing goes way further than we thought. They have been destroying evidence. They have their inquiries into January 6th. They did not. They did these inquiries, and then they didn't keep the actual interviews that they did. They just wrote down memos and destroyed the interviews. So rather than having a record of the interviews that they did for some part of the January 6th, commission or whatever, all that stuff's gone, and now you just have the notes that they interpreted out of the interviews, which means that their biases or their political agendas or whatever are baked into those memos, which means the American people may never hear what actually came out, because, well, why would that be? Because it disfavors the people in power. It disfavors their agenda. And you know what? Non-transparent government, not a very democratic thing. It's not very democratic to withhold information that would change your mind. We were lied to about the Hunter Biden laptop story. We were lied to about the FBI's involvement in covering up the Hunter Biden laptop story. We were lied to about Russia, the Russian hoaxes, the Russian collusion hoax, the Russian bots, all of this Russian meddling in the elections. We were lied to about that. Ukraine, through the Hunter Biden laptop thing that was suppressed, we learned that a lot of the stuff going on in Ukraine apparently is, it's not just a war, it's also a giant money laundering operation to kick government funds out in the form of defense, but the money just sort of vanishes into the Ukrainian black hole and then comes back out in Act Blue somehow. Where do you think Kamala Harris got billions of dollars to waste on celebrity endorsements, on free concerts for people, on paying off Roland Martin and Oprah Winfrey to support her openly? Because, it's very democratic when you engage in pay-for-play politics, when you pay off large personalities that people trust, so that they will say that you are the person to vote for. Not because you are the person to vote for because of some sort of integrity or qualification, but because you gave them $1 million. Oh, you give me $1 million, I'll say people should vote for you, sure. So we already knew that a lot of these celebrities are scum, but there you go. Taylor Swift, same deal, bought off. So that's not very democratic, is it? So much for protecting our democracy. Oh, gee, let me think. What else? The 2020 election. Now, YouTube no longer has a policy that says the 2020 election cannot be questioned. So I can say some things about it, but I still have a feeling that it'll get throttled, deboosted, whatever. And by the way, if monetization is pulled from your video, distribution is pulled too. You get recommended about 1% of the traffic that you would normally get recommended. So if your video is demonetized, it's not just that comes with you not getting paid for ads on the video, it also comes with nobody watching your video. So yes, monetization matters not because of the money, but because it's used as a direct criterion to determine whether or not people get to see your video in the first place that don't directly seek it out. Now, the 2020 election, we were lied to. We were lied to a lot. Remember in Georgia, that pipe that broke? Remember in Georgia, those people that whipped out a bunch of boxes of ballots and just started feeding. There's literally, you can, even on YouTube right now, there's video, surveillance video of the pipe break in Georgia after everybody was gone. These women in masks, they're at these ballot counting machines, and they put the stack of ballots. It runs in the top, it runs through and comes out of bottom tray. And you literally see the woman take the things out of the bottom tray, knock to align them, and feed them back into the top tray. Come on. We're supposed to see that, but no, you don't understand. That's not a problem. Why would that be a problem? That's not an issue at all. Why is it not an issue? Because that didn't happen. You know, what you saw, what you think you saw, is not what really happened. Well, it looks to me like a lady took a stack of certain papers and fed them back into a machine that had already processed those papers. No. No, you're missing context. Fact check, missing context. No, that's not going to fly. That's not going to work for me. There were very obvious issues in both the federal and in my state of North Carolina. I noticed some peculiarities too. Now, I don't remember exactly what those were because it's been a while, and I did make a video about it though. I don't recall if I ever actually posted it at this point, because it's one of those things where if you already had one video that got booted because of some nonsense policy that YouTube has where you're not allowed to question things that favor the Democrats, you see where I'm going with that. Moving on. We were just generally lied to about a lot of things. It's funny how all of the errors skew in favor of one party. We obviously were lied to about quite a few things in terms of these errors. For example, remember the vote dumps in the middle of the night in 2020? Whoop! Remember that? You remember that allegation? Yeah, let's think about that for just a second. So that's normal because mail-in ballots will favor Democrats. Really? But all of them will? Really? That, statistically speaking, that doesn't seem very likely. No, the problem is that statistically speaking, it totally makes sense because, shut up, video banned, video taken down for election misinformation. But even before that, lies all day long. Like when Hillary Clinton wiped that email server. I was lied about that. I didn't realize that was a problem. Having all of my government communications go through a private server in a bathroom, I didn't realize that was an issue. And I double plus didn't realize that was an issue when I wiped the server with anti-data recovery wiping techniques to make sure that none of the emails could be retrieved later. Yeah, but why did you wipe it then, Hillary? Why did you wipe it? Why did you feel the need to keep that level of data security if you didn't know that stuff was a problem? It's just, the lies don't stop. They never friggin' stop. And I'm so tired of it, and everybody's so tired of it. How about the economy? Let's talk about the economy. So ever since COVID, the economy's gone to crap. And yeah, COVID was going to make any economy go to crap just because of the chilling effects of an unknown disease that could have massive effects on people and that we don't know anything about yet. So it's very scary at the beginning. Then we find out, well, okay, it's a little worse than the flu, but it's not like 1% of the population hasn't died from it or anything. And there's a bunch of empty hospital beds. And there's a giant U.S. Navy medical boat in the harbor of New York or whatever that is empty and nobody's using. Wait, isn't this the same place that said there weren't enough beds? There weren't enough ventilators? So they rock up with a boat full of them and they don't use it? Well, it seems to me that there might be a bit of a discrepancy between what you said and the truth. Yeah, you lied to us, and that's all there is to that. So how about them lockdowns? You know, the lockdowns, that was a lie too. Why do we have to be locked in our homes again? Why are we not allowed to buy seeds at the same grocery store that we're going to? Oh wait, you said 6 feet apart? Well, then later it comes out that the whole 6-foot social distancing thing was arbitrary and not based on any reality. It turned out the 6-foot social distancing thing was a number that they came up with because, the actual figure that we came up with is like 10 feet or more. But nobody's going to go for that, so let's just make it 6. Well, that's kind of ineffective, don't you think? Making it 6 instead of 10. And then we find out later that it didn't really matter that much because, you know how respiratory illnesses work? Yeah, it doesn't really matter how far away you are. If you're in the same area as people who have it, you're gonna snort some. That's just the way that it works. There's nothing you can really do about it. Get over it. Yep, we lied to about that. Oh, hey, how about them, shall we say injections? You know, the injections that you were supposed to get. The injections that you got fired from your job for not getting. The injections that, nobody's forcing you to take it. You'll just lose your job, possibly lose your housing, possibly lose the ability to go to work, possibly lose the ability to go to a store, possibly lose the ability to participate in society in general if you don't have it. But we're not forcing you. We're not like holding a gun up to you. We're just taking everything else away from you. But that's not forcing you to do something. Well, that was a lie. That was an obvious, blatant lie. How about when they were like, oh yeah, there's no reason, right at the beginning of the thing, no reason to get masks. And then Fauci says everybody should be wearing a mask. And then it's like, no, everybody should be wearing an N95 masks. Surgical masks aren't good enough. They said no masks, then they said masks, and we find out the reason they said no masks was because, we want medical establishments to be able to buy the masks before you. We don't want you to have protection before nurses or whatever got it. We don't want to run out. And then, much, much later on, after much hullabaloo and many bogus studies were published to prove that masks totally worked, you guys, subsequent studies were published that refuted those. The methodology of those studies was always questioned, but you weren't allowed to question it. And subsequent studies found that no, there was never a chance that your stupid porous cloth mask was going to stop a 100-mile-an-hour sneeze blasting through the front of it or blasting up out the edges of it. There was never a chance that was going to stop your respiratory illness from coming out into the air in the various buildings or whatever that you were in. Technically, they lied twice about masks. Now it's 2024. It's 4.5 years after COVID became such a big deal, and people just don't even talk about it anymore. Oh, I got COVID, whatever, blah, blah, blah. The injuries caused by the things I'm not really allowed to talk about because I'm afraid of it because YouTube's soft censorship. But the things that go right here in your arm, yeah, the things that they did here, people suddenly and unexpectedly dropping with serious ailments as a result. They lied about that. Boy, did they lie a lot about that. Would you, if you were told you had a choice to take something that would maybe lower your chances of getting something, but also maybe would increase your chances of having a serious lifelong medical ailment that could permanently change the way that you interact with the world, would you get it? Yeah, talk about deception. There's no reason we should put up with this crap. Why are house prices through the roof? Because huge companies keep buying them up. but also because when you allow a 1% increase in the population, and it's all poor people being subsidized by federal and sometimes state government funds, given free housing, well, those people have to live somewhere. The government's paying for it. Housing prices are going to go up because now demand for housing has gone up. Plus, you find out the government will pay for it. So, of course, housing is going to cost a lot more. Of course, house prices are going to skyrocket because you're adding a metric ton more people. The infrastructure is not there to handle that many more people. And the government's saying, we'll just pay whatever we have to shovel these people into homes. Well, there's a limited number of homes. And if you have 10 people trying to get into 7 homes, it makes sense that 3 people are going to go homeless, or they're going to have to figure out some sort of really crappy roommate situation. I'm dealing with idiots in traffic right now, so I'm just going to bottom line this. We've been lied to a lot. People are tired of it. People voted out the scumbags who were doing it. That's really all there is to it. People voted out the liars. Now, the truth is, yeah, we've kind of just voted in a few more liars. They might lie in different ways, but that's really the thing, isn't it? You do sort of just pick the people who lie in better ways, or at least aren't the people that have provably screwed everything up. The last 12 years, ever since the whole social justice warrior, feminist psychopath takeover of society, the last 12 years have been a mess. And I, frankly, will be quite happy to see the last 12 years end and a new era be ushered in. So, join me as we walk into this brave new world. God knows if Donald Trump will actually do any of the stuff that he said he was going to do, but I do at least like the things that he's saying he's going to do. So that's a start. We'll see how far he actually lives up to it. Don't think he'll do everything. Some of the things he doesn't have absolute power to do in the first place. But hey, you know what? If we get a 10% improvement in things, that's 10% more than we were going to get under the DEI higher administration. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and all that rot. And I'll talk to you later. Bye. The guy behind me is really pissing me off because he keeps sneaking up on my ass, and it's making me very angry. I don't like it when people get real close to the back of my car, because if someone taps them, or if they have a little brain fart and hit the gas pedal, they're gonna run into me. And that's not really necessary. You don't need to get that close to me, dude. Just stay back. Anyway.